the spiritual life is always the pursuit of soul, the eternal self, as represented by every life experience you have lived, whether as a mortal or an immortal, whether as ordinary or divine. It is always that pursuit. And you're always at the beginning. That's an interesting statement that was told me back in 1979, maybe 1980. It's one of the earliest statements that Michael ever made to me. That in the spiritual life, you're always at the beginning. And the spiritual life is pursuit of soul, the other state of beingness, as represented by all your memories, the lessons learned, your associations. All of that is an element of soul. There's a difference between spirit, which is, again, pretty much like a tabernacle. It's spatially locatable. It has certain dimensions. But within the soul, within the thing that is bounded, is the boundless. Within the thing that seems to have limit, and I speak of spatial locatability, that within that thing that seems to have limit is the limitless. It's really fascinating. What is the first step in unlocking the greater self? It's spiritual pursuit. There's I don't know of another way to say that. But if science and philosophy have their method, which involves critical thinking, the spirit also has its method, which begins with critical thinking, but then you use the critical thinking to go into areas that other types of critical thinking cannot go. They have limits. We have limits, but not the same limits as a scientist or a physicist. Some of the greatest scientists of all time, I named three right off the bat: Isaac Newton, James Clerk Maxwell, and Michael Faraday. Three of the biggest names in physics, all very spiritual people. In fact, Michael Faraday, if he had made his discoveries in the 20th century, he would have gotten at least 8 or 9 Nobel Prizes. That's why Einstein considered him to be the greatest scientific mind of all time. It was the only hero that Einstein had, was Michael Faraday. And yet Michael Faraday was very religious. He's a very spiritual man. But there are limits to what that type of critical thinking can do. It applies itself only to the material world, the physical universe that you live in. That is its limit. I teach critical thinking, but more on the philosophical level of philosophy, where you have the laws that govern intelligent thought, and you have the criteria of plausibility, the law of explicandum, then you have truth systems. And you go from the world that is observable to the world that's not seen. What's strange is that both scientific method and metaphysical method, as I promote, both rely on a faith, a certain kind of faith. I'll give you a good for instance. String theory. There's a big conflict between physicists on whether or not string theory is actual science or is it a philosophy. Well, people who believe in string theory says, well, we may not be able to observe it today, we may not be able to test it today, but sometime in the future will be able to do that. Now, folks, that's a statement of faith. Wouldn't you agree, Vanessa? That's a statement of faith. Yet, on that faith, this future faith, they will devote a lifetime of study and a discipline that many of their fellow scientists disavow as a science at all. And these guys have very big degrees. People who, believe in string theory, they postulate string theory, they like to talk about it, write books on it. Can't test a single bit of it. And they have opposition in their own house. Religion has always had a, a certain framework that dealt with spiritual issues, especially the revealed religions. That by revealed religions, I mean the big three, which is Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. But their framework never worked in answering hard-based questions that had to deal with the observable world. And they picked a fight with science early on. And so science has never forgiven revealed religion for burning people at the stake. Remember Giordano Bruno got burned at the stake because he dared to say that there are other civilizations on other planets, and that we weren't and this is in the Middle Ages. I'd like to know how he knew that before he ever met Edward Hubble. How'd he come across that? But he just deduced it. You can think your way to a solution. I think I wandered far afield from what the question was you asked me.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah. I think regardless of where you are spiritually, your spiritual heritage, lineage, the methodology, the paradigm starts at the same place. I am a critical thinker, but I understand the limitations of critical thinking. I think most scientists and philosophers who are honest will tell you that there are definite limits. Not everything that is real is provable. A lot of your feelings can't be proven. They're anecdotal. So, should you question the fact that you love your kids because you can't prove it on a blackboard? No. Well, I would. I know it. Yeah. Because you throw in frustration in there. Raising children can be very frustrating. A lot of things that have realness or reality to us simply cannot be proven because they deal with feelings. And most feelings I tend to discount if such feelings are not based on the rational. Again, there's a limit to the rational. But once those demands regarding the laws that govern intelligent thoughts, once those demands have been met, you're at liberty to have your feelings. To say that, well, I feel that so-and-so is lying to me. Well, how do you know that? Well, I feel that someone is being dishonest. Well, how do you know that? What's your evidence? Well, I just have my feelings. Well, then we'll dismiss that. Since your feelings are designed to hurt another person, unless you've got the proof. Remember our country, the United States, you are innocent until proven guilty. That is our country, right? Yeah, well, it still is, theoretically speaking.
Unless you're dealing with the IRS.
Well, even they are being brought to heal, you know. Yeah. If you want to know your soul, engage in spiritual pursuits. What is a spiritual pursuit? It's a good question. Dealing with the ineffable. Taking time to touch your deeper self. Trying to identify who you are. You know, what are you? I used to do that when I was a little boy. Try to find me. Who's the real me? And I was a little kid, 7, 8, 9, you know. And there's adults who are 50, 60, 70 who are just now beginning the journey to find out what that is, you know. And I think it's different for every person, because every person represents a framework that is unique to that personality. Their background court is a lot different than mine. So the framework that I come from differs from yours. The goals may be the same. Some of the method may be the same, but our framework, the thing that keeps it, makes it all reasonable, makes it understandable, it may differ slightly, you know, because we're different. And difference is all right. It's all right to be different. I don't think someone can start, I don't think I can take my method of spirituality or spiritual pursuit and demand it across the board of everybody, since they would have to be me in order for it to work. That's why I don't rule ex cathedra. You know, and why no one here should rule ex cathedra. You're not that smart. Trust me, you're not. I'm not. You know, let people have their view. Unless it's harmful, I wouldn't say anything. But it would have to be harmful. If someone used the Song of God to promote racism, me and that person would have a very powerful disagreement. And I would try to make that disagreement as public and as messy as possible, so that there's no misunderstanding about where God stands on that issue. I had someone ask me one time, so what color is God? My response, are you a racist? That person's response, why, no, I'm not. I said, the fact that you even asked the question implies that you're a racist. You may say you're not, but you want to agitate discord between people of different colors. I said, I'm not going to help you. Go stand over there and start a race riot. I'm not going to give you ammunition. Well, I would just want to know what color God is. I said, well, paint God any color you want. I have to tell you, they wouldn't care. You can make them as black as ebony. You can make them as white as snow. You can make them as pink as an oyster shell. God doesn't really care. Make them green as grass. You know, paint them as blue as cobalt. God doesn't care. You know, color is an issue for you, not for God. When Adam put a sign in the sky, not Adam, but Noah put a sign in the sky as God's promise, it wasn't a white rainbow. It had all kinds of colors in it. Okay, that paint God the colors of the rainbow. I'm not a racist. And I wouldn't let that book be used as a premise for one, or as some kind of authority for it. You know. I think I went really off track here.
Was the Song of God providing a general methodology that can be applied to different frameworks?
Again, the Song of God contains within it one master construct, which you must yield to, but it's not my construct. It's the construct of your Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother. It fits whatever framework you happen to come from. It's not my framework, it's not my construct, I merely put it in the book. And the beauty about it is, you don't have to be aware of it, you don't have to be able to dissect it, you don't have to understand any single working part of it. You just read the book. and think, ponder, try to shape your life in conjunction with the construct that's in there. Do you want to think like God thinks? Do you want to believe like God believes? Do you want to have at your command the very same possibilities for your life that God has for theirs? Do you want that? Do you want to be the master or the victim? Because that's the only two possibilities you've got. What do you want? Most intelligent people will say, well, I'd like to be the master of my life. I don't like being harried. I don't like being pushed around, victimized, or told what to do. I want to be the master of my life. Well, fine. There's the book. Read it, study it, according to your internal framework. See how much of that book works for you. It's that simple. You know, God is singing to a reader. God's not singing to the masses. That's one of the things that's unique. You can't sing to the masses when they're not listening. And, you know, it's a wasted effort. So who does God sing to? Why is it called the Song of God? Well, it's called the Song of God because God is going to sing to the reader. And that song is as varied and as different as there are types of people and types of backgrounds. You know, is there one right way to live your life? Well, there's one right way for Azrael to live his life, you know, and that's what I do, but it's not transferable. And it's like having a shirt that fits me. No matter how much I like Kevin over here, I can promise it ain't going to fit, you know, or vice versa. His shirt wouldn't fit me. You know, that's why we have so many different sizes. And spirituality has sizes. What size are you? What's your inner world like? What are your dreams? Or do you even have them? Do you have spiritual ambitions? Or not? Are you content to just go through your life and occasionally think about spiritual things? Or is it an everyday pursuit that you never get tired of? What is it for you? Whatever it is for you is fine for you. I'm not going to get on you for not praying daily or meditating daily or reading your scriptures daily. You know, that's not my job. You know, it's not any of your jobs. It's an individual's job. Now, we're all individuals. You know.
The Song of God's kind of like a one-size-fits-all.
You're referring to a book, right? Which is spatially locatable. I'm sure the book will fit anybody's hand. But the song that's in it is directly proportional to the reader, whoever that reader is, whatever level you're at. You know, you're the master. God is not. That's why I wrote down a new credo, or for the article for the credo. You know, regarding faith. That in order for faith to be acceptable to God, then that faith has to acknowledge your right to walk away from it without any condemnation from God or from God's church. What empowers faith is not just believing, but your choice. That you choose to believe, that you choose to have faith. It's like it says in the fourth endowment. Faith is the gift we give ourselves. Third endowment. Drink from your faith like water. In both instances, you have the power. You can choose to drink or not drink. You can choose to give it or not give it. It's your choice. You can't demand a faith. You can't insist on it. You must always have the right to walk away without incurring any condemnation. That means that when you do choose to believe, you do choose to have faith, now that makes it powerful.